You know that incredible feeling of emerging from the ocean? Totally refreshed, invigorated.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing quite like it.
But what's happening beneath the surface, literally on your skin and hair, well, that's a whole other story. It turns out what you do after that blissful dip is just as vital as the swim itself.
Absolutely. We tend to think the ocean's all cleansing and therapeutic, and, well, it has its benefits, sure. But it also presents some unique challenges to our skin and hair. This deep dive is going to be your go-to guide for navigating the post-ocean shower, turning what might be, a routine scrub into a genuinely restorative process.
Exactly. We've taken a deep dive into a post-ocean swim care guide, not just to tell you the steps, but maybe to uncover some of the surprising science behind why they matter. Our mission is to arm you with the essentials for an effective post-ocean shower, delivering those aha moments without bogging you down in unnecessary details.
Okay, so you've just left the beach. Why does that immediate rinse, even before a proper shower, make such a difference?
Right. What's fascinating here is the speed at which things start to shift. That salt water, while it feels great in the moment, immediately begins to pull moisture out of your skin and hair. It's due to a process called osmosis, basically. Water moves from an area of lower salt concentration, which is you, to an area of higher concentration, the salty water around you. Plus, those tiny salt crystals can act like microabrasives, and then you've got sand and potentially even dried sunscreen clinging on. That quick rinse is about disrupting this process before it really kind of takes hold.
So it's like hitting the eject button on the stuff that can cause trouble later. Makes sense. And the guide suggests a super practical approach. A blast of fresh water at the beach shower, or even just a water bottle if that's all you've got.
Yeah, exactly.
It's about getting the initial layer of salty, gritty residue off the surface.
Precisely. Think of it as minimizing the initial damage. And that little tip about shaking out your swimwear and hair, that's a smart move, because you're physically dislodging a lot of those abrasive particles before you even add water, which sometimes just spreads them around,
Okay, pre-rinse done. Now you're heading indoors for a real shower. What are the must-have items in your post-ocean cleansing kit?
Well, this brings up an interesting point about product selection. After the ocean, your skin and hair can be a little more sensitive. For shampoo, the guide mentions clarifying formulas to really dislodge that salt and any product buildup, which makes sense. But it also highlights sulfate-free options. Sulfates are strong detergents, they can be effective cleansers, but they can also strip away too much of your natural oils, which can be problematic when your hair is already dehydrated from the salt. So it's a balancing act.
Right, you want to get clean without that squeaky clean, stripped feeling. And conditioner seems absolutely essential. The guide really frames it as a hydration hero. Why is it so crucial after ocean exposure?
Because that salt water is a major dehydrator. It makes your hair more brittle, prone to tangles, and ultimately, well, more likely to break. A good moisturizing conditioner steps in to replenish that lost moisture. It essentially coats the hair shaft and smooths the cuticle down.
Okay.
The guide suggests leaving it on for a few minutes to really allow it to penetrate and do its job.
And for our skin, it sounds like the same principle applies. Gentle hydration is key. The guide recommends body washes with soothing ingredients like aloe or oatmeal. What's the thinking behind that?
Well, those ingredients have natural moisturizing and anti-inflammatory properties, which can be particularly beneficial for skin that might be a little sun-kissed or slightly irritated from the salt.
Makes sense. And what about that optional exfoliation for getting rid of stubborn sand? How aggressive should we be?
That's a great question because you definitely don't want to go overboard. The guide suggests a mild exfoliating scrub for those really persistent sandy patches, especially on tougher areas like, say, elbows or knees.
Right.
But it strongly cautions against overscrubbing, particularly if your skin is feeling at all sensitive. Think gentle buffing, not aggressive scouring.
Got it.
And of course, a soft towel, a wide-toothed comb essential for detangling wet hair without causing damage, and a gentle applicator like a loofah or washcloth complete the toolkit.
Now, when you finally get under that shower stream, the temperature recommendation is cool or lukewarm. My immediate thought after a chilly ocean swim is usually to crank up the heat. Why the cooler approach?
Yeah, that's a common instinct, but here's where it gets really interesting. Hot water, while it feels comforting, can actually compound the drying effects of the salt water.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it can further strip your skin and hair of their natural oils. Cool or lukewarm water is much gentler and helps to rinse away the salt, sand, and sunscreen without that added dehydration.
Okay, fair enough. It's about working with your skin and hair, not against them.
Exactly. And the guide makes a good point about being thorough with that initial rinse under the shower, paying attention to those sneaky spots where sand loves to hide.
Absolutely. I can think of more than a few times I found a rogue grain of sand hours later. The guide specifically mentions underarms, behind the ears, even between your toes. It's those details that can make a difference in preventing irritation later on.
Exactly. And for your hair, really letting the water run through it to loosen up all that salt and debris before you even reach for the shampoo is a key step, one that's often overlooked.
Let's talk more about washing your hair. The guide mentions a double shampoo approach, if needed. When would we know if we need to lather up twice?
Good question. The need for a second shampoo really hinges on how your hair feels after the first rinse and wash. If it still feels kind of coated, heavy, or, gritty, that's a good indicator that there's still some salt, sand, or product residue hanging on. A second, gentler shampoo can help to ensure a more thorough cleanse. However, it's also important to be mindful of not over-shampooing, as that can lead to dryness. So it's about assessing your hair's texture. And as the guide rightly points out, if you have curly or textured hair, sticking with a sulfate-free shampoo is generally a safer bet to minimize frizz and maintain moisture.
And then comes the all-important conditioner. The guide says to generously apply. That sounds like good advice after the ocean has done its thing.
Absolutely. Think of it as a rescue mission for your hair. Apply it liberally from the midlegs to the ends, which are typically the driest and most susceptible to damage.
Right. The ends always seem to get it the worst.
They do. Leaving it in for those 2 to 3 minutes allows the conditioning agents to really penetrate the hair shaft and replenish that lost moisture. For an extra layer of protection and hydration, especially if your hair is feeling particularly parched, a leave-in conditioner after rinsing can be a real game changer.
And while that conditioner is working its magic, the guide suggests gently detangling with a wide-tooth comb. Why is that so much better than a regular brush on wet hair?
Because wet hair is at its weakest and most elastic state.
Ah. Right.
Yeah, making it more prone to stretching and breaking under tension. A wide-tooth comb has more space between the teeth, allowing it to glide through tangles more easily and gently, minimizing the risk of damage.
Moving on to taking care of our skin. We've talked about gentle, hydrating body washes. Is there a specific technique we should be using?
Well, the guide recommends using a loofah or washcloth to gently massage the body wash into your skin. This helps to lift away any remaining salt and sunscreen. Pay particular attention to areas that tend to get a bit rougher or where sand might accumulate, like elbows and knees.
Okay.
But again, the emphasis is on gentle, avoid vigorous scrubbing that could irritate the skin. And if you do use a mild exfoliating scrub for those stubborn sandy spots, remember to be extra kind to your skin afterwards with a good moisturizer.
Okay, shampooed, conditioned, cleansed. Now for a step that's easy to rush, the final rinse. The guide really stresses the importance of rinsing until absolutely everything is gone. Why is that so critical?
Because any lingering soap, sand, or product residue can actually lead to irritation, dryness, and even clogged pores down the line. It's surprising how residue can hang around. Taking the extra few moments to ensure a thorough rinse can prevent these issues. As the guide suggests, really check those less obvious areas and use your hands to feel for any remaining grittiness.
Good tip. And finally, the drying process. The advice is to pat dry our skin and hair instead of rubbing vigorously. What's the benefit of this gentler approach?
Just like wet hair is more fragile, damp skin is also more susceptible to irritation from friction.
Makes sense.
Aggressively rubbing with a towel can cause redness and exacerbate any existing sensitivity from sun or salt exposure. Patting gently removes the excess water without that harshness. And this is the perfect moment to really lock in hydration by applying a generous layer of moisturizer to your body. The guide even mentions looking for ingredients like ceramides or hyaluronic acid, which are excellent for restoring the skin's moisture barrier.
Oh yeah, those are great.
And for your face, a lighter, non-comedogenic moisturizer is ideal, especially after using sunscreen. You don't want to clog pores.
And for our hair, it's not just about patting dry, but also about adding a little extra nourishment with a hair oil or serum. What do these products do after ocean exposure?
Hair oils and serums act as a sealant, essentially. They help to smooth the hair cuticle, lock in moisture, and combat frizz, which can be a common complaint after being in salt water. Applying them to damp hair allows for better absorption and distribution.
Now, the guide includes a section I think a lot of us might overlook. Swimwear SOS, immediate cleaning. I know my swimsuit often ends up in a damp bag for way too long. Why is a quick rinse so important?
Oh, that's a habit many share, but the guide is spot on here. Salt and chlorine, if you've been in a pool as well, are corrosive to swimsuit fabrics.
Right.
They can break down the fibers, causing them to lose elasticity and fade. Plus, damp fabric is a breeding ground for bacteria and can lead to unpleasant odors.
Definitely experienced that.
Yeah. A quick rinse in cool water right after swimming helps to remove the bulk of these damaging elements. Following that with a gentle hand wash and air drying will significantly extend the life of your swimwear. And avoiding wringing it out helps to maintain its shape.
Good to know. Beyond the immediate post-swim routine, the guide touches on some other helpful tips, like dealing with stubborn sunscreen residue using micellar water or a cleansing balm. That's a good reminder some sunscreens really cling on.
Yes. Those gentler cleansing options can effectively break down and remove sunscreen without further stripping the skin. The guide also wisely emphasizes the importance of internal hydration. Replenishing the fluids you lose through sun exposure and being in the water is crucial for overall skin health. So drink up.
Always good advice.
And finally, it's important to pay attention to any signs of irritation and know when to maybe try an over-the-counter remedy, or, if it persists, consult a dermatologist.
The guide even takes a step back to talk about proactive measures, things we can do before we even hit the water. Sunscreen, of course, is a big one.
Absolutely. A water-resistant, broad-spectrum sunscreen with an SPF of 30 or higher is your first line of defense against sun damage. And it can also minimize the amount of product buildup you need to deal with afterwards.
And for our hair, the simple act of wetting it with fresh water before jumping in the ocean or wearing a swim cap seems like a smart preventative measure.
Exactly. Wetting your hair with fresh water first kind of saturates the hair shaft, so it absorbs less of the salty water, less room for the bad stuff, basically.
Oh.
And a swim cap provides an even more robust physical barrier, which is particularly beneficial for frequent swimmers.
Which leads to the point about those who are in the water regularly. The guide suggests investing in specialized products designed for swimmers, like anti-chlorine or anti-salt shampoos. Are these significantly different from regular shampoos?
Yes, generally they are. They're specifically formulated to help neutralize and remove chlorine and salt buildup, which can be more persistent with regular exposure. These products often contain ingredients that help to prevent the damage these elements can cause to your hair over time. So it may be worth it if you swim a lot.
Finally, a really important point to consider, the environmental impact of our rinsing routine. The guide reminds us to be mindful of the products we use, especially when rinsing off near the beach, and to avoid harsh chemicals that could harm marine ecosystems.
Yes, that's crucial.
It's a good reminder that our self-care choices have broader consequences.
It is indeed. Opting for gentler, more biodegradable products whenever possible is a small but meaningful way to minimize our impact on these delicate environments.
So as we surface from this deep dive, it's clear that taking care of your skin and hair after an ocean swim is more than just a quick rinse. It's a thoughtful process of counteracting the specific effects of saltwater and sun through gentle cleansing, hydration, and even some proactive steps.
Precisely. It's about understanding the science of how the ocean interacts with your body, and then responding with a routine that supports long-term health and vitality for your skin and hair.
This has been so informative. It definitely makes you rethink those hasty towel-offs. Considering the intricate ways our bodies interact with the natural world, like the ocean, what other seemingly small habits in our daily routines might have surprisingly significant ripple effects, both for ourselves and the environment around us? It's definitely something to ponder.